So, we're going to start this story where it ends, with a single dramatic event, a midnight arrest that is really the tragic final chapter of a very long journey.
Let's set the scene. The place is Mashhad, Iran. The date? July 19th, 2020. This is the exact moment a young woman's life is turned completely upside down. The final act in a story that really got its start 3 years earlier.
In the back of that police car is a young woman named Reina. And the question that just hangs over this entire scene is, it's pretty simple. How on earth did a 21-year-old end up here? Okay, so she's been accused of an illicit affair by a total stranger. Turns out it was the taxi driver's wife. But that accusation, that's just the final domino to fall. To really understand why it fell, we have to go back. We have to rewind 3 whole years to a chance encounter on a city bus.
This is where her story truly begins. Let's call this first chapter The Forbidden Marriage.
And wow, did it all happen fast. So 3 years ago on a bus, Rana meets this really charming young man named Nader. He's tall, he's got a kind smile, and she is just instantly smitten. Only a few months later, he proposes. And then, just weeks after that, ignoring her father's desperate warnings, she marries him. And that single choice, well, it cost her her entire family. Her father, you see, he saw the danger from the very beginning. His words were so stark and, as we're about to see, just tragically prophetic. He said, "This boy is not good for my daughter. The end of this is ruin."
And that ruin her father predicted? Yeah, it wasn't far off at all. Her marriage marked the beginning of Chapter 2, a chapter we're calling A House of Smoke. So after the wedding, Rana moves with Nader to his family home, and her new reality is just bleak. I mean, picture it. A crumbling 2-story house that constantly smells of dampness and smoke. She's completely cut off, no friends, no family nearby. And then, the shocking discovery, her new husband and his sister are heavy drug users.
So you might be wondering, how did she fall into that same trap? Well, it was a simple but devastating sequence of events. First, you've got the environmental pressure. I mean, she's surrounded by it constantly. Then one night, she's complaining about a really bad headache, and her sister-in-law offers her a puff of hashish to ease the pain. That first puff, just a moment of desperation, quickly spiraled into a daily habit. This new addiction forces them to move to Mashhad, and this is where the story takes an even darker turn. It leads us right into the next chapter, The Price of Addiction. The addiction just created this vicious, brutal cycle. When they had no money for drugs, Nader convinced her to start stealing tramadol from the elderly patients at her nursing home job. Of course, she got caught and was fired. Then, he actually tried to sell her to another man for drug money. At her next job, desperate for a fix, she slept with the villa's gardener, only for him to turn around and demand she sleep with his friends next. I mean, this contrast just shows the cruel irony of her situation. She took a new job as a live-in caregiver, really hoping for a fresh start in a luxurious villa. The promise was a beautiful new life, financial freedom. But the reality? It was deeper isolation, a worsening addiction, and just horrific sexual exploitation. This entire downward spiral, it just keeps building to the story's climax, where Rana loses absolutely everything.
she finds herself completely alone in the city.
So, the first blow lands. Her elderly patient, who had Alzheimer's, passes away. And just like that, her job was over.
Then comes the second blow. She returns to Mashhad with her final paycheck, only to find the locks changed. Nader had moved out. When she finally tracks him down, he and his family publicly shame her, screaming that she's a prostitute. And so, the final, devastating reality hits her like a ton of bricks. She's penniless, her money already spent on drugs, she's homeless, and she has absolutely no one to turn to. She was completely and utterly alone. And this is where the story comes full circle. Stranded at a bus terminal late at night, a 46-year-old taxi driver pulls up. She just pours her heart out to him, and he offers a moment of sympathy, a shared story about his own bad marriage, and then a place to stay for the night. And that brings us right back to where we started, the police station, and a counseling session right after her arrest. This final chapter is simply a story of regret. You know, listening to her story, a social worker might use a word like this to describe her situation: quagmire, a complex or hazardous situation from which it is difficult to disentangle oneself. I mean, that perfectly encapsulates the web she was caught in, right? But really, her own words are the most powerful. Through tears, she tells the counselor, "I wish I had listened to my father. I wish I never got on that damned bus. Addiction made me someone else." At this point, she understands with perfect, heartbreaking clarity every wrong turn she made. So, what happens now? Well, an official investigation is underway to verify her story. And, maybe most importantly, a counseling process has started to help her escape the grip of addiction, which offers this small, fragile glimmer of hope. And that leaves us with this final, really haunting thought. Rana's story is this cascade of choices and circumstances, each one leading to the next. And it just makes you wonder, how many wrong turns does it really take to reach a point of no return?